sector currently exists in a state of dynamic paradox. On one hand, we are witnessing record breaking installations and technology breakthroughs. On the other hand, we are also witnessing the industry is grappling with technologies, supply chain fragilities, rising interest rates, and wind gaps with developing nations. And as we say, that when we come to a session where we are interacting, we should say good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everyone. Welcome back to Let's Talk Energy with Saikat, powered by Climate Club and Yongo. There's the Children and Youth Constituency of UNFCCC. Yongo Energy Working Group is the organizer. Join, watch, and interact from where the world we are building upon in exactly energy conversation should be accessible, simple, inclusive, and open to everyone. No gatekeeping, no complicated policy or jargons, just real discussions in global religion and local energy transition. Where we are and whether we are and what we are a policy expert, a student, and an engineer, a climate enthusiast, or simple curious. Everywhere energy acts, and whether we are sitting on the table or you are youth or you are young by heart, this is where the interaction comes upon life. This is not an interview, this is a conversation, a goal towards having simple jargons to be simplified, and where we are going behind the headlines of wind energy, because everyone loves to say wind is blooming, right? And it's booming like everywhere, like it's dramatically changing the entire world. Who is actually going to build these turbines? Who maintains them? And what happens if we don't have enough people? So today we are diving into newly launched Global Wind Workforce Outlook, and join us with someone who lives and breathes this space, Ben Backwell from Global Wind Energy Council and the chair of Global Renewable Alliance. You have been in more of everywhere, Ben. So you have spent 20 years as a journalist and analyst, specializing in global energy policies and market, served as editor in chief in research, a leading news provider for the renewable sectors, also a managing director for FTI Consulting, advising clean techs, renewable energy companies, and author of the Wind Power book, which was said that the struggle for control of new global industry. Oh my God, it's a lot. But so we really want to know what's your emotional story that we do not know yet, and why you are what you are now. What exactly with the winds? And welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Saikat. Really good to see you. And hi to all our viewers and listeners. It's really, really good to be here with Youngo and the rest of this network. And I'm going to try, as you said, Saikat, to not use policy jargon or technical jargon, as you say. I think maybe just a little bit of background around myself. I was a journalist for a very long time, and kind of strayed really into energy journalism. I actually studied politics and political science, and actually specialized in Latin America, and then ended up living in Houston, Texas, and covering the oil sector, oil and gas sector for Latin America. Ended up moving to Venezuela, a country that's been in the news quite a lot recently, and then covering OPEC, the oil producers organization, for some time, and then a kind of journey through the oil and gas world, through many places, including the US again, but also Brazil, other countries in Latin America, with frequent trips following people around to Vienna and other places around the world to find out what was going on with OPEC. The result of all of that was I actually became quite green and concerned around ecological issues and around environmental issues, particularly having lived in a lot of places where they were very dominated by the oil and gas industry. So as I got older, I actually became increasingly kind of interested around environmental issues, but also social issues. And I started actually as a corporate analyst, looking at some of the first companies that were moving big time into wind power, and just got more and more interested in solar power as well. And I started to see that something knew was coming, a wave was coming. For a long time, people had talked about alternative energy, this idea of alternative energy, and I could see that this was no longer going to be alternative energy. This was going to be something that was going to start to have a massive impact on the energy world, and would eventually start to make inroads into the oil and gas markets. So I got more and more interested, and that's kind of a bit about how I got into it.
That's fascinating and interesting, because not many people actually like says that, okay, I've been to an oil and gas, a, a portfolio, then I did a transition where I knew that, okay, something new has to be done and someone has to take the charge, and this is where the step begins. It's fantastic to work with you, Ben, as well. Last year in COP, we did connected. Last year in Future Dialogue, we connected, and all the time you are so energetic and so improvised in terms of how we can move ahead with using renewable energies, clean energies, wind energy into our day-to-day lives. So that's the best thing, and you have been a role model to a lot of people, and in fact in the youth sector as well. I'm telling you that people are following you in terms of how they should know the wind, also in not a perspective of technicalities or like how it will implement into business aspect, but also an aspect of life changing behavior. Because it's, as you said, you started with the journalism, you started with many profiles, but exactly where you landed, you are silently motivating a lot of people, and thanks a lot for that.
No, thank you, and you're making me blush a little bit. But it's been really great interacting with you, Saika, and with the rest of your network. And I mean, I'm really passionate both around how do we get young people to get involved in the renewables industry, right? And how do we keep it interesting? How do we provide opportunity and allow people to see that there's opportunity here for great careers and great relationship building and just great kind of life stories, but also around diversity as well, and making sure that we have a really vibrant and diverse workforce. So, I mean, for instance, one of the things that we did when I first took over GWEC about 8 or 9 years ago now, was we set up the Women in Wind Global Leadership Program. And then since then, wherever I go in the world, I meet people who've been through the Women in Wind program. Some of them have ended up working in international organizations. Some of them are in companies doing wind and renewables. Some of them have gone into government. And it's really exciting to see that energy from young people. And we need a lot more of that. And we need to make the industry relevant and exciting, particularly in a time where we are being criticized quite a lot,
Yeah.
and where there's quite a lot of pressure from some quarters, against us, and a kind of move backwards in some ways.
No, that's true. That's true. In fact, it's a really interesting that you bring that space, or where you are meeting a lot of people, colleagues who are working, and also they have been going through a lot of changes in their profiles. So I've been reading the Global Wind Workforce Outlook, and one sentence really struck me is turning global emissions into realization of wind energy's potential requires the development of the global wind workforce. So we often talk about gigawatts, we often talk about terawatts, we talk about COP targets, as you know, but we really rarely talk about the people who will actually build and maintain those turbines. So today I want this to be a less of a technical interview or more of a real conversation where what it takes to make wind development humanly possible. What's your take, Ben, on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of different aspects to it. I mean, first of all, we're going to need to train a very large amount of people who, as technicians, to work on building, wind farms, and talk about people who have expertise in putting the wind farms together, but also in maintaining them, and being in the wind turbines and being able to maintain them. And there's a lot of interesting jobs there, which are, basically engineering jobs, but also jobs that are quite niche as well, like finding the people who actually want to abseil from turbines, people who like working at heights, for instance. And there are people out there, right? And there's a lot of people who love working in those jobs, who find it really, really exciting. And it's actually, if you look at the report, it's very, very large amounts of people, because we're going to be in the millions, right?
That's true.
In the next decade, right? And quite often there's not kind of joined up government policies, and also sometimes it's not obvious how you get into the industry, and that's one thing I've seen a lot. And some of that's about
Mhm.
creating clear pathways, making sure that it's really integrated in academic curricula, that there's
Yeah.
recognized places where you can go, that there's a kind of shop window and a portal that you can go to find out the different career pathways and those aspects, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of work to be done there. I have a lot of people who connect with me on LinkedIn and through networks, kind of like saying, look, I want to get into the industry
Mhm.
in different countries,
Mhm.
and it's not always obvious where to point them, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't know about you, but it's kind of like what I think what we need is just a kind of a portal, right, where we can then direct people to the kind of right career paths depending on their interests, but also the right academic institutions, training courses, and governments need to be bought into this as well. And that happens to a varying degree. You know, there are some that are very clued up that see it as part of their strategic plans, and there's others that there's not much thought has gone into it at all, right? So I think that's the first aspect around technical training,
Mhm.
and and engineering on that side. But then there's also lots and lots of other jobs where I think again, you know, we need to attract more talent, and I'm talking about innovate everything from innovation on the one hand, right? And we need to keep innovation going in the industry. We can't just become a kind of incumbent where nothing is happening new anymore. We need that challenge of innovation all
Mhm.
the time.
Of course.
But then there's also all the jobs around development, finding a way economically and socially in the market to be able to build projects. You know, we need a generation of young developers who are finding new ways to make things happen, to access finance, to work with communities, to work with other industries as well. And so on. And then we need people who can do politics. We need people who can do marketing. We need people who can do fantastic HR. We need people who can, you know, who can go out and tell the story with communities and so on and so on. So there's actually many jobs, and we need to make the industry a really exciting place to be able to attract the talented people, right?
Oh yes, actually, you touch the base as people are really interested to work upon on this sector, but the problem is how they transit. Sometimes the roads are not clear. A lot of youth right now also looking forward to work as a green jobs, but sometimes the definition of green jobs are not properly defined, like what exactly it should be, right? Um, for my personal experience, I've been working in energy sector for like in 10 years now. But recently, I'm working with a company where we do offshore wind farms, substructures, and foundations. When I go to the seas, most of the time, when I was a project manager, engineer, and in the operation sector, so at that time, I have seen a lot of people who have been working in the oil and gas sector as well, and they are doing the same job in offshore wind farms as well, because the work mostly are the similar, but they've been tagged as a blue collar job, like a blue collar in the sense like they are not a green job holders. So mostly most of the time they find it difficult to be in that space, but we need a lot of people in this space for upscaling, right, for implementations. That is the reason as well, like if you see local government and local initiatives, a lot of initiatives are there who is doing like really good in terms of maybe heating of houses using solars or solar used batteries or this kind of stuff. But the thing is, there is a lack of skilled professionals who can actually come and work for the residencies. Maybe like sometimes there is some kind of issue and they need someone who really knows those kind of skill, and they are finding it very difficult to find the specific skill. But the people who have been working in that area, like area in the sense like heating, house heating and normal heating by oil and gas, they can be transferred, giving the skills, giving the trainings, right? Which I feel there is a gap. What do you think? How can we fill that gap so that the youth can also jump in and find their careers?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to education and the educational institutions. Some of it is about certification and qualifications and transferability of qualifications. And one of the issues I think is also about mobility. Putting a lot of barriers to mobility is not helping us at all. And you can see that quite a lot across Europe, for instance. So quite a lot of technicians, for instance, come from the eastern parts of Europe. And then you get parts of Western Europe making it more and more difficult to get visas and so on, right? And then you also get kind of barriers around transferability of qualifications and those kind of things. And that's common across the globe, right? So working on kind of transferability and kind of interoperability of qualifications and what you can do, I think it's really, really important. That's why common standards are important. That's why things like the work that the Global Wind Organization, GWO, does is really important. But again, lots more to be done there, and also lots more to kind of just break down barriers and ensure that people can go and work where there's skills gaps, right?
True, true. Like, let me throw something out of there because, yeah, as you say, as we all know, in 2024 was another record year for like 117 gigawatts of new wind capacity installed globally. Total capacity right now is 1,121 gigawatts and growing, like nearly prox. Onshore wind still dominates. Offshore wind is growing faster in percentage year by year. China, US, Germany, India, Spain dominating. But when we look at the COP28 commitment, tripling renewables by 2030, we are still lack of track, right? And the report says that we need 16.6% growth rate to close the gap. So, man, let me ask you in the direct way that are we understanding how hard it is to scale wind fast enough, or are we underestimating the system bottlenecks around it? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. I mean, just on your kind of run through of the figures, Saikat, I mean, one hopeful thing is that, as you said, it was 117 gigawatts in 2024. We are
Mhm,
actually seeing a very big jump in 2025 and
mhm,
2026. So I mean, I haven't got the final figures yet, but we're expecting something in excess of 150, that's 150 in 2025, and then something even bigger in 26. So there is actually, for a number of reasons, actually one of the biggest year-on-year jumps ever is happening right now, and it's going to happen for the next few years, which, on the trajectory we were on, will take us to something like 2.1 terawatts or something by the end of the decade. Now, that's pretty good, and many industries would love to have that growth curve. But as you say, it's not enough to get us to the ambitions of the agreement in Dubai with the tripling of
renewable.
COP28.
Mhm,
And we'd probably have to be going probably at least 250 gigawatts a year by now, to get to that. So it is accelerating, but we need to go a lot faster. And why isn't it going faster enough?
mhm,
I think it's partly, it's still very geographically concentrated, or too geographically concentrated. So we've got dozens of countries that are doing wind power, but the largest part is within China, India, the European
mhm.
Union, particularly Germany, the US, and one or two other places like Brazil. And then there's
Correct.
many other places where the resource is very, very good, but it either hasn't been developed, like in many parts of Africa, or it's just taking a long time to get to scale. For instance, in Southeast Asia, where there's a very strong need for it, there's some good resource, and good kind of economic reason for doing it, but it's taking quite a long time just to kind of get over the kind of regulatory hurdles, create the legal frameworks, create all the basis
Mm,
for doing it. But there are some reasons to be hopeful. I mean, one, the biggest part of this is China. Probably about 60% of it's China. China is growing at a phenomenal rate. I was in Beijing in October, and we signed this thing called the Beijing Declaration 2.0, which promised 120 gigawatts per year just in China.
mhm,
And it looks like we're almost at that already now, of getting to that 120, which is incredible. But then we're also seeing significant speed up in India, seeing significant speed up in Germany, The UK is doing really well with offshore, as you know, but now onshore coming back as well. And then there's places like Egypt and Saudi Arabia and Central Asia, which are really starting to become significant as well. And then we've got the Asian countries kind of getting over this kind of regulatory kind of bottlenecks and then really starting to move faster. So South Korea, Vietnam, where we're going to finally see the first projects for offshore. Onshore's already coming back. Philippines is doing its first offshore wind auction.
Wow.
Australia is doing an offshore wind auction, and so on and so on. So we are going to get to a kind of a new level in the next few years. The question is, how fast and how far can we go, and is that enough for the tripling by 2030?
It's interesting that you mentioned all the bottlenecks, but also you've been mentioning before as well permitting, supply chain, grids, and finance. What I find interesting is that none of these are purely technical barriers; those are government and coordination challenges. So that's interesting because I think many people watching right now also assume that technology is always the bottleneck, and what you're actually saying, the system itself is slower than the ambition. So as I went through the numbers, the real that really stopped me is 628,000 skilled wind technicians needed by 2030. So that is a workforce challenge, and that's the industrial revolution. I guess is 628,000. And what I found fascinating is it's not just new installation; those are the operation and maintenance that is needed. So meaning wind is becoming mature infrastructure all the time. So, in a different way, let me ask you, are we entering into an era where wind energy is less about engineering and more about long term industrial talent? What do you think? Ben?
Yeah. I think there's a couple of things, right? I mean, the bottlenecks, as you say, are political and social in some ways, but it's also around things like grid, where we can see in places like the UK, if you're not building grid every year at a pretty fast pace, then you just can't keep up, right? And we've seen that in many other
Yeah.
places, and there's bottlenecks in the supply chain for grids, right? Not necessarily for wind turbines, but for grids, right? So I think that part of the equation, governments are now paying. It's probably at the front of their energy agendas, pretty much everywhere. Is how do we make the grid keep up with the demand with the demand for projects connecting, whether wind or solar or other types of
Mhm.
technology, and that's going to be the major challenge, I think, over the next 5 years. And then the kind of policy social aspects are complex, because we're not talking about a situation where we're just adding small amounts of power to the grid anymore. We're talking about managing whole grids with variable renewable resources, right? Mainly solar and wind, and getting that balance right in a way that you can run the whole system, but also that people can make money out of it and invest in it, as we've seen, it can be quite challenging, right? Whether that's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Iberian Peninsula, where I live, where you get negative power prices most afternoons because you've got a lot of solar,
Hmm.
or whether it's places where peak demand is kind of early evening, or whether it's kind of places where you've got geographical concentrations of certain
Hmm.
types of power in different places, and then it doesn't
True.
get to the places where it's needed, and so on. So we're kind of getting into this situation where everything is more needs to be more sophisticated, more holistic. You need to have governments that are able to understand what the levers they are, and what the outcomes they want are, whether it's just whether it's cheap power prices, or whether it's kind of optimal
Hmm.
system operation, or whether it's how much they need to invest in grid. I mean, depending on what your objectives are,
Correct.
short term and mid term, there's different things that they're gonna have to do, and every country is different because the resource is different, and the level of interconnectivity with other places is different. So you kind of get into that more complex world,
Hmm.
which I think we're in many places. The good news is that we can do it, and system operators are getting more and more sophisticated, and the technology is more and more about flexibility and so on. So but definitely the exciting thing is that we're going to get, we're going to see whole systems starting in some countries that are essentially renewable systems,
Hmm.
right? And we've already got that in a few countries. We're going to see that in many, many more countries. And then that's then going to spread, I think, with experience more easily to other places as well, with the kind of experience and the learnings that we're going to see, right?
Correct.
So I think that's the kind of challenge. I think on the supply chain, and whether it's about our ability to make things, you know, probably not. I mean, probably we are able to make what we need, and make it in great
Interesting.
quantities.
Hmm.
I think the nuance is probably about where is stuff made, and what national economies get out of production. I mean, is everybody producing wind turbines? Is everybody producing solar panels? Are people just producing part of the supply chain? Are some places not producing any of the supply chain because they're into the other stuff, right? I mean, that's where the discussion is around. And then there's a discussion really around industrial policy, trade policy, and then there's some discussion also around kind of resilience and security as well, of how much you need to be doing yourself in terms of
Hmm.
production. So that's the kind of world we're in now, I think. And we weren't really in that world 10 years ago, although 10 years ago people were even back then, everybody wanted local content, everybody wanted their own factories, right? And
Yes.
that's probably not going to change.
No. I think business is always the as usual, right? It's
I think in that sense, yeah, right. It's what's in it for us. How many jobs can we promise to our voters?
mm,
What can we promise to our trade unions? What can we, what's the economic opportunity that we're presenting to our, to our publics, right?
oh yes, like the lefts and rights are always there. What about the medians? So you actually like that's thing. I can say the pain point, but also I love this because people watching right now, especially the young people and professionals, probably don't realize how many career exist behind the turbines. So let me be honest, Ben. Wind energy looks cool from Instagram drone shots, right? But nobody talks about climbing the turbines in rough weather, offshore safety trainings, advanced technical certifications. I personally went through GWO training as well because of I work most of the time in turbines. But those works are personally very engaging. If energy is a career personality, right? It's a personality. What do you think? It's an adventure, engineering, elite sports, or what? Like, how can we narrate to become more easy to understand?
Yeah, I mean, it's really important that people see those kind of engineering careers as something interesting, exciting, engaging, as you say, right? And
Yeah.
it beats sitting behind a desk, right? Getting out there and building stuff and building exciting things, right? And I think we need to tell that story really well. But as you said, also the kind of the diversity of different careers, because it's also about design and coming up with new solutions, and increasingly now also how do we interact with technology innovation that's happening in other areas, right? So how do we integrate with how do we use AI in a way, or physical AI in a way that's that can really push us forward
Yes.
through things like intelligent management of the turbines, of grids, of wind farms, and so on. But also, financial engineering and market engineering, and how do we plug into markets in a way that we can maximize our ability to to make money and to build companies as well, right? And we need to build exciting companies,
Oh yes.
right, that people want to work in. The tech sector is very good at building these kind of big brands that people identify with, right? That have this kind of aura around them. Not forever, and the aura fades on some of these companies, with kind of cycles of time. But
Hmm.
we need to create brands in the wind
True.
industry
True.
that people identify with and say, hey, I'd really love one day to go and work for that company. And I think we could get a lot better at doing that. I think sometimes we're a bit kind of just we come across as just a bit technical and a bit
Yeah.
boring sometimes, right? And but there are great companies out there that are telling great stories. I mean, I live in Portugal, for instance. I mean, we have EDP
Yep.
here that was the kind of state utility kind of 20 years ago. It still has some government participation, but they 20 years ago it was a coal company, right?
I got to
Essentially.
know that, yes,
And,
with
and
some
now it's
some colleagues.
now it's one of the leading renewables companies in the world, right? And it's doing projects all over the world, and it's working across different technologies, and it's doing really exciting stuff. And it's also built a really good brand and a really good company. Well, you look at someone like Octopus in the UK, right? I mean,
Oh
they've
yeah.
come from managing some assets and looking at it predominantly as a kind of investment management business to now being a global energy company that's also the cutting edge of technology in terms of grid management and how they integrate into grids, but also in developing customer models and the innovative models for for customers and users, right? So there's lots of I still think there's a lot of kind of tricks and opportunities that we're missing as an industry. I think we're still a bit binary. We still come across sometimes like we're just trying to sell a
Hmm.
technology
Hmm.
or sell some wind turbines, but actually what we need to be doing is selling solutions
Yep.
that kind of cut across different sectors and kind of cut through society. So I'll give you an example. I mean, again, we shouldn't really be selling turbines, or whether you could be a very efficient turbine manufacturer
Correct.
and have that niche and concentrate on that. But there's many opportunities there about how do we integrate with industry. So instead of selling turbines, how do we sell solutions that then can help countries industrialize other areas? So whether that's creating green ammonia for fertilizer or
Hmm.
for transport, or whether that's setting up large scale infrastructure powered by renewables that then allows you to manufacture something else, right?
The byproducts.
Yeah, the byproducts, but also how do you industrialize with clean energy rather than just think about the energy, right? And
Yeah.
how do you make sure that your product
Hmm.
integrates across um, energy production, but also storage, but also the grids, but
Yeah.
also industrial products that are made with the energy, right?
Hmm.
So rather than just see it as the generation, the primary generation, look at it as everything that's going to happen
Hmm.
with the generation or can happen with the generation, right? But also the
Definitely.
manufacturing behind it. And some companies are doing that, really successfully now, and essentially selling kind of industrial solutions and
Hmm.
industrial parks, and rather than just selling a turbine, right? And also
Hmm.
what we're seeing is a lot more integration between different energy sources.
Exactly.
Hence why we work very closely with our colleagues through things like the Global Renewables Alliance.
Hmm.
Because I mean, you look at somewhere like Brazil, where we were last year,
Last year.
Saikat, and
Hmm.
it's you've got these very big wind farms in the northeast, for instance, in Bahia, and now what's happening is they're plugging solar into those wind farms so that you maximize the grid connection. You're also plugging in some battery storage where that helps as well. And we're seeing that kind of hybridization and kind of thinking across the system and for energy
Hmm.
solutions everywhere. And I think that's going to be the wave that we're going to ride over the next kind of 5 or 10 years, I think.
No, that's true. The thing that you told is, we call it energy mix all the time, because not every corner of the world have the similar kind of weather or situation. So whatever is the situation, we have to mix the solution together, where we can move ahead with the hybrid system, solar, hybrid wind, or any other thing that we can increase the definite production of renewable energies. And in fact, when you told about like how to bring the narratives into the society, because the narratives makes a lot of difference rather than making it too much of technicalities. I think Global Renewable Alliance and Global Wind Energy Council doing a phenomenal job, because I've been personally worked with you and the entire team, and they're fantastic in terms of bringing the emotional connect to the stakeholders, the local stakeholders, the actual people who have been like working and who are making some kind of changes. In fact, I still remember, as you said about some companies like EDP and Octopus. So whenever we go there, we try to talk to them. They also connect with us in terms of like kind of making storytellings or maybe like mascots. I still remember that we received mascots from Octopus Energy, and they like gave the mascot, but also they gave some kind of information that okay, this is the information about energy, how we can bring upon more scope one, scope two, and scope three as well into the whole supply chain. So that's a great thing. As we are talking about COP last year, I think this year the highlight was you attended IRENA 14 and the World Future Energy Summit in Abu Dhabi. Sometimes which kept up like going at as youth are really excited about that. Governments are ambitious, but workforce pipeline there's a question, of course, but not moving in the same speed. If I unpack openly, is the world inspiring enough people, or is there a gap as well? And also, you always talk about the global south having a huge wind potential, but there should be a training infrastructure. There should be a situation of technological transfer. The wind exists, but the skill levels are not. So, how do you see the workforce development being the next big energy inequality or changes? Because youth come in front as well in that space. Because like a lot of global South youth are right now changing into a workforce, and they really want to know how honestly how to bring that on.
Yeah, and I mean, and in answer to your question, I mean, I don't think we are doing enough to tell the story, and I don't
Hmm.
think we're doing enough to make it exciting, and I don't think we're doing enough to make sure that there are ecosystems on a local level where people can develop projects, learn how to do that, actually make a living from them as well, and be successful in those places, and then spread that knowledge to other people. And it's all about creating success stories.
Hmm.
And what I really want to see are the success stories of global South countries, that are creating truly new economies, based on renewables, and it's completely possible, and it's possible to leapfrog some of the old dirty kind of industrial development that we had, in the West, in the sort of, from the
That's true.
1880s to the kind of 1970s, and create new kinds of models. And what I'd really like to see is the kind of 3 or 4 champions in Africa coming through and competing against each other to show how successful they can be.
Oh,
The countries in Central Asia doing the same thing, and so on. But we do need to create success stories that are recognized as such. And I think we should really concentrate on taking those places where there is, very clear and strong opportunity, and just putting everything into that, and not being afraid to put some, work in, try new things, put some of our kind of creativity in, and make things happen. And I know, there's a lot of young developers out there who want to do projects, and I think it's really at that level that we need to make those projects happen. We need to connect them with the right type of money. We need to get the technology in there from the right parties who are prepared to go in there and take some risk and so on, right? But we need to take a bit more risk, in my view, and
that's
make
true.
things happen.
That's true. And also, like, be honestly, the conversation is starting to sound like energy policy, more economic development strategy. As we are in a show and it's not a podcast or it's not a webinar or something, it should be like, fun as well. So, Ben, I have some quick rapid fire question for you. It's not question, just one word. And you have to just tell me what exactly comes in your mind. No overthinking, please. And first thing that comes in your mind. So I got my cue cards, and one by one I'll just go through it. So
Okay, I think I'm ready.
ready? Okay.
Yeah.
Offshore wind,
Boundless opportunity.
permitting,
Um, Tough but satisfying.
workforce, Mhm.
The future.
to a 2030 target,
Let's work harder.
GWAC,
Um, Still having fun.
youth,
More. We need more. We need more of them involved.
COP30 Brazil, specifically Belém experience.
Glad we survived, but had a lot of fun. But we had a lot of fun.
Still remember. Still remember. And a few other more. What is your favorite food?
I gotta say Brazilian food.
Okay. And your favorite place?
Gotta say Latin America.
Okay. And your favorite youth? Oh, I know that. Saikat. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you even need to ask?
Thanks a lot, Ben. So let me end with something deeper. Like let's talk about, like, I don't want to talk about gigawatts all the time. I don't want to, like, talk about the technical stories. But maybe a real story of this decade isn't turbine. It's the people, right? And the skills of the people and the human. So I want to ask you one last thing, not as a GUAC leader, but personally, a person who've been working like since many years in this sector. What gives you confidence that wind energy will actually deliver?
Yeah, I mean, we've been written off so many times, and it's an industry that has had so many ups and downs over the years, and it just always, it always seems to come out stronger on the other side. I think that's the first thing. The second thing is it's something that people who are in the industry are really passionate about. And again, right from the beginning, it's been a story of kind of inventors and kind of visionaries, and it's still the case. I mean, you can still go to India or China and meet people who are CTOs of companies, and they are just these really passionate kind of people who are still kind of inventors in some way. So that gives me a lot of confidence. But then also, finally, the wind turbine is still a symbol of hope. And you see that whenever somebody wants to show that they're being sustainable, or you get a company that is trying to show that they're being green. The wind turbine is the first thing they think of, right? So it is a kind of symbol of hope, I think, and I'm pretty sure that people do want a confident green future that's sustainable and that's clean, and that comes from those resources which belong to everybody. So I'm confident that we will come through, and we will get to a situation over the coming kind of decade where we're seeing these kind of 100% renewables economies. And it won't be just us; it will be us with solar and pumped hydro and many other technologies. But we are going to see this green economy.
Fantastic. And one question personally, as I know that you are into a lot of things, and I know that you are also like very built up into your health, and also like how to make the body mind connections and everything. What's your favorite band, so that every youth can also like listen and they can also get the motivation from?
Oof! Listen, I'm listening to. I'm not young anymore, Saikat. So I'm
Come on,
listening
you are
to.
younger than me by heart. Don't worry. We
I'm
all know
listening to
about
music.
it.
I'm listening to music coming all the way from like the 1980s up to now. But I like a lot of music, regional music from different places around the world. I
Mhm.
like alternative music from the UK back in the 80s and 90s.
Ooh.
I like hip hop.
Oh, that's good.
Um, a big fan of people like Kendrick Lamar and people like that. So yeah, I'm listening to to a lot of varied stuff. I'll come back to you on some sources of
Some
inspiration.
list, yeah, playlist. But
I'll
also,
send you
I'm
some
wondering,
playlists.
what's your hobbies other than, of course, you write books. You have really a fantastic way of storytelling as well. Other than that, we don't know anything about. What's your hobbies?
I'm out there traveling a lot, and I'm
Oh,
trying to engage with the places that I go to. Because I hate to be too much of a tourist. So
oh yeah.
I'm always learning new languages, and I'm always
Hmm.
trying to learn about the places that I go and visit, and just at least try and engage with the places I go to in a somewhat meaningful way, and engage with the people there. So I spend a lot of time reading, spend a lot of time learning languages, and then I spend a lot of time running and things like that, trying to keep body and soul together as well.
Hmm.
So yeah, and I'd say probably my biggest passion actually is history and culture.
Oh,
So I've got.
That's
I think I'm in
fantastic.
the. I think I'm in the right job because I get to visit some amazing places.
Oh, that's fantastic because yes, not many people get the same in line, the jobs and also your passion, but you're doing amazing. You're doing amazing, and you are really making a change. That is really brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, that was, and I think what today we really showed is the future of wind is not just steel and blades. It's skill, it's jobs, it's human. So thanks everyone also to join, and thank you so much, Ben, to be here with us and we making us more motivated enough to work into this sector to know more about wind energy. It's not just jargons; it's personal as well. So right now, I think we are more connected after this show, this sessions, and I can see we are more than 1,000 viewers who are seeing in different platforms. The numbers are coming, and that's a great thing. Any any message or anything you want to tell them from your side?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you for being here, and secondly, come and join us. We really need people to come with new ideas. So, get in touch, come to our events. We have events all around the world. From China this year, we're going to be at the offshore Asia Wind Summit in Vietnam. We're in the Philippines. We're in the Middle East. We're in Africa. We're in Europe. Come and see us and come to our stands. Engage with us. If you have new ideas around some of the things that Saikat and I've been talking around, please come forward with them. Come and help us. We need great communicators and thinkers and people who are creative. So come and see us and let's work on these ideas around how do we make sure that people can find a way and find career paths into the industry, because that we're going to need a lot of talented people in the future period. So yeah, come and see us is my message.
That's fantastic. If we can change one life as well through this show, it's a big achievement for me. So thank you so much,
Me too.
Ben, for being here, and always a fan of yours as you are doing amazing thing. I will meet you in future dialogues, definitely in May, and we will have more conversation as well.
Absolutely. Saikat, thank you so much. And we'll
Thanks a
see
lot.
each other soon.
See you. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
So right now, viewers, we will be open for 15 minutes more, and we will take another caller in this hotline. If you have any other queries, you can just try directly join the hotline, and we can speak as well. So it was fantastic, right? It was really amazing. As Ben was with us, he's been doing amazing in entirely in this sector, the wind. Um, in fact, not just the wind, but also how to motivate the young people, how to motivate the young by heart people. They are doing massively in just not infrastructure, but also policy guidelines and narratives. I worked personally with them. So, in fact, if you go to the link, the link is psychat.co.uk/live shows, live/shows, you'll see a button, and the button says join the second half. If you want to join me in the show for the rest of the 15 minutes, you're most welcome. We will go through some kind of discussions. If you want to share something with me, if you want to share some of your um, you know uh, ideas, maybe not policy wise, not technically wise, but maybe some kind of storytelling, right? I'm here to listen to you. I'm here to listen to you. Our viewers are here to listen to you, and just come in, join me, and let's have some discussion. What do you say? Right? And if not, then of course you have to listen to me for rest few minutes. uh, you know that's fascinating that we come up with an idea where it's not just the technology we need emotions as well into the policies, um, into changes, into technical jargons in everywhere, right? And this is what it should be, and this is what it has been, mm, till many years. But the thing is we don't follow that trend. We always go ahead with what would be the change in technicalities, what would be the change in more broader way rather than changing a small step by step process. So I guess through this show, through the discussion that we had, you'll understand it's not the vast change that we need. We need small bit of changes and a bit of courage so that we can move ahead and we say, okay, those are the steps that we have to take, and we help each other, right? We really help each other. AI is also growing faster day by day. We have many friends who have been working in AI who are really keen to come to the show as well. I think we will do one show for like in the near future for sure, sooner, specifically with AI. And it's not about like how AI works. It will be how energy is helping AI, or how energy is like degrading AI, or AI is degrading, or vice versa, whatsoever. We'll we'll peel out every stance one by one. As I say, it's ABC. Anybody can understand kind of show. So it's not about too much of technicalities coding. It will be how we can change the entire world in a further, more greener way, rather than just extracting all from them, right? So it's making it future proof, correct? So this is what it is. I'm again requesting anyone who wants to join the show right now with me. They can go to the link. The link is everywhere. If you are seeing, watching the show anywhere, everywhere the link is given. You can just click there and join me. You can go to the page saikat.co.uk/live hyphen shows, and over there you'll find a link. It's called a button. It's called join the second half. Join me for the discussion, and we will have some kind of discussions together. It will be interesting, right? If you want to get some celebrity footage as well. I'm just joking. But if no one comes, I think it's a good way to end. It's amazing Saturday. Everyone is enjoying. And one more thing, happy Ramadan to every viewers of mine who are celebrating, who are not as well, because we are one and we should understand how things work. So we are also celebrating Ramadan in a way by heart, right? Whoever not. So religions are a way that connects people, and this show is also a platform which connects people. So in a way, we are also celebrating some Ramadan together. Until unless we'll see you next Saturday, same time, 4 o'clock. I think another special guest is coming for sure. I will not reveal it until Wednesday. Um, there are a lot of special guests in line. Many discussions will be going on, and it's, as I said, it's not a podcast, it's not a webinar or interview. It's a live show, and the show should be chill, right? So whenever possible, just call through the link, just dial into the link, be inside the room. Let's talk to each other. Let's talk with the if you want to speak with our special guest as well, you're more than welcome. And this is the way we change lives, right? Until then, goodbye, see you, and take care of yourself. Until next time, with Let's Talk Energy with Saikat. Bye.